Hello, I'm Baron Becker, and I am one of the librarians here at San Jose State. I work with the psychology department and the counselor education program. If you ever need to get in touch with me, it's baron.becker@sgsu.edu. The library's website is library.sgsu.edu, and I have a research guide that I built specifically for the counselor education students at libguides.sgsu.edu/counselor-ed. And I have all the links to all the resources that support counselor ed research on that research guide. A lot of times when you're doing database searching, it's because you have to either write a paper or do like a literature review section. And usually with this kind of writing and research from a counselor ed perspective, you're looking at a certain problem or a certain issue. And that means you're going to have to find this research that investigates the problem that you're addressing. And then you need to find research that supports a solution to that problem. So this is all evidence-based research. You've got to find the research that's out there that's like defining and breaking down your problem, but then also talks about the intervention as well. So these research articles that you're going to need, they're in scholarly databases. There is a set of core scholarly databases for counselor education. 3 of them are education databases, and that's ERIC, Education Research Complete, and Education Full Text. And then there's also PsycInfo, which is a psychology database. So one thing to keep in mind is that databases have certain focus. So ERIC, Education Research Complete, Education Full Text, those are 3 databases that all focus on collecting education research. And PsycInfo is kind of off to the side, but it's one you might want to consider because education research is also a big part of psychology research as well. So those are your core databases that you'll be doing your searching in. You can find these links to the databases in like the library catalog. There's a articles and databases link on the library's homepage that will connect you to those databases. But like I said earlier, I've collected them all in one spot here on the Counselor Education Research Guide at libguides.sgsu.edu/counselor-ed. And that's where I have links directly to those databases. You can do database searching from home. Just if you connect to the databases from home, it's going to ask you for your SJSU ID and your MySJSU password, just to verify that you're an SJSU student, because these are subscription only. So as you begin doing your database searching, you need to identify what's the core ideas, the core concepts, the who and the what of your topic. And those are the terms that you're going to start searching for. You can't just type out your whole research statement into the search box. You've got to break it down into what are the core concepts or the subjects of your topic. So for example, you have this idea maybe of risk factors for bullying in middle school students. Take that idea and break it down into concepts. We have a group of people, middle school students. We have an issue, bullying, and then what do we want to look at within bullying? We have risk factors and interventions. Now I do say risk factors is vague here, and you're probably going to have to specify it a little bit more down the line and identify a specific risk factor, like maybe self-esteem or parent relations that are playing a role in the issue of bullying in this population. One thing to keep in mind, and this is what makes database searching really difficult, is that the databases use a vocabulary that is very specific to that database. So the databases, they have their own ways of talking about your topics. So for example, if we were looking at like teenagers, all the research out there that's on teenagers, it's going to get the terms that are going to be used are like adolescents or high school students. Same thing, a lot of people do research on grades, like what's something that's affecting a grade. It's not grades in the database. You'd have to search for academic achievement or academic performance. So you've got to learn what are the terms that the database uses for your topic, and then plug those terms back into the database to find articles that are focused on that. Each set of databases has its own terminology. So ERIC, Education Research Complete, and Education Full Text, those are those education databases, they all use the same terminology. They all have an education focus, but PsycInfo has its own terms. So the terms you use in the education databases might not necessarily be the same ones that you're going to use in like a PsycInfo search. So for example, in PsycInfo, we would be looking for like school-based intervention if we were looking for programs that are used to intervene or solve a problem as a solution. But in the education databases, that might be called something like program effectiveness. They're usually more programs rather than just saying school-based intervention. So you got to just kind of learn the terms that are out there being used for for your topic in each of these databases. When you're running a database search, try to keep it simple. So try to keep it to one concept per box. As you see in the slide here, so I don't type middle school students and bullying all in one box. I have to break it down into these different ideas, like the concept of middle school students and the concept of bullying. So try to keep your ideas separate, and when you click on the search button, that's going to combine those ideas. One thing to also keep in mind, always look for the scholarly peer-reviewed journals filter in each of these databases. That's going to make sure that the results that you get back are research articles that have gone through a quality assurance process called the peer-reviewed process. So databases can be combined so that you search across multiple databases with one search. It's here at the top of your search screen. You'll see the Choose Databases link. When you click on that option, you're going to see a full list of the databases that are available through this vendor, and you're going to be able to put a checkbox next to ERIC, Education Full Text, and Education Research Complete. You can search all three education databases in one swoop, and that's very helpful. But do not add PsycInfo to the combined database search. Remember, it has its own peculiar and distinct terms. So when you're running a search in PsycInfo, just do it by itself. But it's really efficient and effective to combine the three education databases using the Choose Databases option and search across all three at once. And I'll show you how to do that in just a second. So whenever I run a search, some of the things I look for first. One of the first things I look for is the number of search results in my list. You're not looking for a magic number here. It just kind of gives you an idea of what's going on. If you have like a 0 search results, it might be that you've made a misspelling up here in your search terms, or it's maybe that you try to combine too many terms into one search box. So again, just try to kind of keep it simple when you're starting out. The next thing I look at is over here at the publication date range. So this is the date range of the articles in this list. In this case, it's 1993 to 2017. So keep that in mind whenever you are running a search and you have a requirement that says you have to use recent publications, like something in the last 15 years. You might be able to adjust those dates there and see just what's been published during that specific date range. Again, if you forget to do scholarly peer-reviewed journals on the limiter on that first screen, you can do it here as well. Now, whenever you start adding filters, it's going to keep track of what you're doing in your current search box here. So that's very helpful. And it comes into play a little bit later when we really start using these filters. So what I've got to do first is figure out, how does the database talk about these issues of bullying and middle school students? What's going on? So let me break down the search results for you. The only reason number one is number one in this list is because it's the most recently published. So don't assign some arbitrary value to what's on your front page of your results list. Right now, number one isn't any better than number 279. The only reason number one is because it was published in 2017. So that's our newest one in this list. So check this out. Here is a title of the article. Here's the citation information right under that, who wrote it, where it was published. And then right under that are the subject terms. Now, remember I just said how every database has its own terminology for different topics. These are the subjects of this article. This is what this article is about. Children bullying. There's attitude research, group identity, middle school students. Here's the theory, grounded theory, interviewing, self-perception, gender roles. These are all the topics that are showing up within this list. This is the official vocabulary of the database, and you can start using these as your search terms to make a match with articles in the database that have been tagged with it. And what's really cool is that you don't have to go looking through all of these terms in these lists. The database will already do that for you. So on your search results screen, if you scroll down, you'll come down to the thesaurus term. Sometimes it's called subject thesaurus term in the education databases. In PsycInfo, it's called subject major heading. But we're going to be starting our search in the education databases. And like I said, we'll go through this again in just a second. But what happened here is that the database looked through everything in this list, and it's showing me the most reoccurring subject terms here. So I'm just seeing if the terms I used to search with were the terms that the database uses. You know, there's bullying and school bullying. This is the official vocabulary. I'll start using these as my search terms. Make sure you click on Show More, and it opens up a new window showing you all the search terms, reoccurring search terms in your list. That's a great way to just start figuring out what is the vocabulary of the database for my topic, and really start using those as your search terms. It's a great way to explore and research a topic. When you click on an article's title, you're going to get to the articles page. What you see on the page is, again, who wrote it, what's the title of the article, the source, the name of the journal that published the article. But here's where you want to look at the abstract. The abstract is going to tell you what is being researched, who's being researched, the findings, and the conclusions. It's a real summary of the article. And it's what I use to make a decision about whether or not this looks like an article I'm going to pursue or not. As you're finding articles, you're going to be able to add them to your folder. You always look for the add to folder icon. There's in the search results screen, there's a little folder icon. On every article's page, there's an add to folder icon off to the side. There's also a cite button that will show you a suggestion on how to cite this in APA. Don't ever just copy and paste that citation. You've got to just double check for errors. Usually there's a couple errors, but at least you have all the information in one spot. Some of the articles that you're looking for are going to be available in PDF format, and you'll see that PDF icon. If you don't see that PDF icon, it might mean that the article you're looking for is in another database, and you'll see this Find It button. If you click on that Find It button, it'll search our catalog to see if the PDF is available in one of our other databases. If it is, it'll provide you with a link, but if it's not, you'll be able to get an option to order it through a service called ILLiad. So I just kind of want to show you these steps and how I go through them every time. So there's a couple ways to start. You can start at the library's homepage at library.sjsu.edu. Here we have a to Z list of all the articles and databases that we have access to. But what I really want to show you though is this research guide. So here under subject guides, I'll go to counselor education and go. And here's a research guide that I built for you, and it just has all of the links to some of the key databases in one spot. Up at the top here I have the 3 education databases, ERIC, Education, Full Text, Education Research Complete, as well as a link to PsycInfo. I suggest starting your education research in one of these 3 databases, and these are the 3 that we're going to be able to combine: ERIC, Ed Full Text, and Ed Research Complete. So I'm going to go ahead and click on ERIC. When you're at home and click on ERIC, you're going to see a new window asking you to sign in with your SJSU ID. That's just verifying that you're an SJSU student. But here, this is the ERIC search. Let me just make this a little bit bigger. This is the ERIC search screen. We're going to then click on Choose Databases and combine ERIC, Education Research Complete, and Education Full Text. Now when I click OK, and you'll see that I am searching across all 3 of these databases now with this one simple search. So let's look at a topic here. I say try to start broad and try to keep it kind of simple, because early on we just got to figure out how is the database talking about this topic. What is the terminology going on in these databases for whatever your topic is. So let's look at like parent participation. You're going to get some suggestions in that drop-down menu. I usually try to ignore them because sometimes they give you misspellings. So I'm kind of looking out here, I have one result and I'm feeling really bad, right? That's because I either maybe misspelled something, so I got to double check that, or I'm not using the same terminology that the database uses. So in this case, when you only have one result or like less than 10, you're not going to get a bunch of filters over here on the side. But what I'll do in a scenario like this, I'll start looking to see what the terminology is, and then I see it's actually not participate, it's parent participation. So I'm just going to clean up my terminology to make sure that the search terms are just the same. And boom, that recognized what was going on. And now I have 30,000 results, and you're going to be like, oh my gosh, I went from 0 to way too many. Well, here's how I clean this up. The first thing I look at is the publication date range. I'm going to bump that up. Let's see what's happening in the last 15 years. All right, so I cut out about half of our results. I forgot to do scholarly peer-reviewed journals. I'm going to go ahead and limit it to that. So now we're just using these research articles. That's still quite a bit, 7,500, but this is still kind of general. From here, I would probably suggest you try to zero in on a certain population. And in this, usually in ed research, this might be like something like elementary school, middle school, high school, or college students. Try to identify the system, the schooling system that you're in. Let's just look at some of our thesaurus terms. Parent participation in education, academic achievement. So like I said, this is how the databases talk about grades. So if you wanted to look and combine some ideas of parent participation and academic achievement, now we're kind of combining those ideas. What's the research that's out there that kind of pulls these two things together? Still quite a bit, but I'm going to do it again, and I'm going to look to see what's showing up in all these subject terms, because there's so much stuff going on. I'm going to click on Show More. Now you have a quick rundown of kind of all of the core ideas that are popping up within this list. I'm going to zero in on parent participation and academic achievement. Click Update. I'm going to pull out the articles that are just focused on that, and where those terms are showing up in these subject filters down here. At this point, what I would do, even with it's that much, because parent participation is going to look differently depending on whether it's like elementary, middle school, high school. You can type in middle school, high school, elementary. Let's see what's happening in high school. So we're looking at parent participation, academic achievement in high school. And I just keep doing the same steps over and over again. I start trying to see if I can zero in on something. Here we have a certain population, African American students. If you want to look at the issue of homework, we can zero in on family-school relationships. We can look at middle school, school involvement. If you need to add more rows, you can do that by clicking the Add a Row plus sign right here. One thing I want to also look at is try to zero it in on counselor education research. And I wonder if you remember, there are some terms in the education databases. So within the education databases, here's some. Let's see if there's a program. I'm going to put program effectiveness. So now I found that there's 13 articles that looked at certain programs in high schools dealing with parent participation and academic achievement. So there's the Holistic Conditional Cash Transfer Program, School Dropout Prevention Pilot. So there's these programs, the articles dedicated to kind of reviewing the programs. That's kind of fun. Let's see. Let's just see if we can tie it to counseling. Kind of see what's going on. And this is just the search process. Searching takes a lot of time. It takes a long time figuring out what are the right combination of terms, and you just won't know until you're in the database doing it. Let me see what I feel like 9's really low for this topic. It might just be that I have crammed too many ideas here. Let's see what's happening. Social network counseling. So there's a lot of really cool stuff, but this is the process. Like I said, it does take a lot of time, and it's really just trying to keep it simple, keeping it very, very focused. Let's look at some of these articles. Sometimes, like I said, you're going to see this Find It button here. Other times, you're going to see a PDF icon. Let's see. It means the article's right here. You'll be able to click on the Scan button. ERIC, if it's from the ERIC database, ERIC has its own kind of like shelf, or it has its own storage space for articles from ERIC. So that link will be in here, and you'll have to then click on Download Full Text and actually get these articles. So this is where you just have to spend time with different combinations of terms, parent participation, academic achievement, and then it just kind of depends on your topic. As you're finding articles of interest, you're going to be able to add it to a folder. Now, what's kind of crazy is that if you notice it, let me add these items to my folder up here, and it looks like I've got it safe and they're saved. But if I accidentally close this window, it's just going to dump out this folder because I'm not signed in. So make sure that you sign into the database whenever you get connected. And if you've never made a database account, you're going to click on create one now. It's right here under the sign in button, create a new account. And this is your database account. And this is what's going to give you a folder that once you sign in, that folder will be yours. And now it's safe. Whenever it's in your folder and you're signed in, it's safe. And it will only be removed if you select it and delete it. Again, make sure to check out these the abstract for each of these articles that you might be interested in to figure out what was studied, what were the findings, conclusions. If you find an article that really hits the nail on the head for you, for your topic, you're like, this is my ideal article, check out what subject terms got tagged to that article, and you might be able to use these as subject terms, as search terms, so that you can find more articles that have been tagged with those same things. Remember I was telling you about the Cite button that's over here on the side? You can click on Cite. It'll show you the APA suggestion. I never ever just copy and paste these things, and you've got to double check for capitalization errors. They usually make a mistake with capitalization, and it happens about right here. So this is the name of the journal, and the rule is, excuse me, this is the name of the article, and the rule is the only thing that should be capitalized is the first letter of the first word of the title, and then the first letter of the first word of the subtitle, if there is one. So that would be teacher-student relationships mediate the effect of mental health problems in non-completion of upper secondary school. This is the subtitle. So the only things that should be capitalized are the T in teacher and the A in chant. So I'd have to go and make these lowercase. If there is a proper noun like in New York City gets capitalized. Then comes the name of the journal, Scandinavian Journal of Education Research. It should be capitalized. That is the proper name of the journal. It does try to capitalize the small articles like of, the, and you would just keep that lowercase. So you just have to clean up some of the capitalization errors, but this one would be kind of okay to go. Like I said, if you don't see the PDF icon, you have to click on this Find It button, and you're going to check the SJSU Libraries catalog, and a new window will pop up. If the article is available in another database, it'll show up here, okay? And you'll have to just click on that. It connects you to a new database that has the article where you can grab the PDF, okay? That's not going to happen every time though, because sometimes you're going to click on that Find It button and went back too far. Sometimes you're going to click on the Find It button and it's not going to be available in any of the databases that we have access to, and that's when you're going to have to put in a quick special order. We'll pay for it for you, but you just have to use our system. All right, let's see here. It's telling me to sign in. It's going to ask me to sign in with my SJSU info. All right, once you're signed in, that window, that little box is gone. It's still not available in any of our other databases. Then you're going to have to click on Request through Interlibrary Loan. If you've never made an Interlibrary Loan account, you're going to have to start here and make one. I've got one set up already, and once you make your account, it'll fill in the order form for you, and you're going to be able to click Submit Request. So in this example, it failed to put in some of this required information. It's pretty crucial. So I'm going to have to go back to the database and see what was the volume and issue number of this article that I'm interested in. Let's see here. So it wasn't listed on this page, so I have to actually go back. I'm not sure which one it was. You'll have to go back to the article, and it's listed here in these sections of the database page. And every once in a while that does happen. We have to go in and fill out that info. The rest of these are doing okay. But that special order process takes about anywhere from like a couple hours to a day, and you'll usually get a notification saying it's been found and ordered for you. When it's ready, you'll get an email saying it's ready, and you have to come back into your account, and they load up the PDFs in here. They don't email you the PDF directly. Database searching is difficult. It does take some time, but it's really all about figuring out how does a database talk about my topic, and then how do I use those terms to search the database to find articles tagged to that. Just remember, some of the best advice I can give is remember to combine these databases so you're searching 3 education databases at once. Don't forget PsycInfo. You're also going to want to run another search through PsycInfo to see if PsycInfo has some of the articles that you're looking for. But in my experience, the education databases really help out a lot and cover most topics within the counselor education research student needs. Remember that my research guide is here at Counselor Education. It's libguides at sgsu.edu/counselored. You can get to that from the library's homepage like we saw earlier. If you ever need help, send me an email. That's the best way to get in touch with me at baron.becker@sgsu.edu. There's a couple other things on the subject guide page that might be helpful for you. One is I have the APA rules. We have a program called RefWorks that'll help you work on your bibliography. If you want to do that, you can connect to RefWorks right here, and there's some videos that walk you through those steps. But I found that most people, what they need mainly from me is to figure out how to get connected to these databases, which databases to search, and really just kind of how to get started. And it's really about nailing down that language. So send me an email if you get stuck, and I'll get back to you as soon as I can. Thanks.